Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is pretty laser focused, but the landscape we're traversing is vast and, littered with discarded dollars.
It really is.
We are diving into the corporate journey of Dollar Tree, Inc. We're taking the sources you've shared, tracking this American discount behemoth from its really rigid single price point origins.
That whole promise of everything for a dollar.
Exactly. All the way to its massive multi-price point strategy of the day, where you can find items for, 7 times that original price.
It's more than just a retail story, though. It's an astonishing case study in corporate identity, just colliding, sometimes violently, with economic reality.
Right. We're looking at a Fortune 500 company, often ranked in the Fortune 200.
And as of early 2020, it was operating over 15,115 stores. That's across the 48 contiguous U.S. states and Canada, all headquartered in Chesapeake, Virginia.
And when we talk about that kind of scale, the numbers are just, they're staggering.
They really are.
The financial snapshot from fiscal year 2021 shows reported revenue of U.S. $25.509 billion.
Billion with a B.
Think about that. A company built on selling small, cheap items generated that kind of turnover.
And their total assets topped U.S. $20.696 billion, supported by this army of over 65,000 full-time employees, based on 2024 data.
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle because every single price change, even a quarter, it affects that massive ecosystem.
Precisely. That kind of financial magnitude, it just demonstrates that the operational decisions they make at the executive level have these massive real-world consequences.
For consumers, for the market.
Right, for the consumers who really rely on them, and for the entire discount retail market. I mean, the smallest fluctuation in the global supply chain or a 25-cent price increase, it's just magnified across 15,000 locations.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What does it actually take for a store named Dollar Tree to fundamentally pivot away from the dollar?
Completely. It's the core question.
We're talking about raising that anchor price point, first to $1.25, and now, through this strategic integration, pushing prices up to $7.
Across their core banner, too, not just a side brand.
That strategic shift, that breakdown of the single price promise, that's the core mystery we need to solve. We're going to trace the long, deliberate history that set the stage for that truly massive change. So the history of Dollar Tree, it starts long before the dollar concept ever existed. We have to go all the way back to 1953.
Yeah, this is classic American retail lineage. It all begins with those local variety stores.
The earliest ancestor, it was started by K.R. Perry in Norfolk, Virginia.
Right. Initially as a Ben Franklin variety store, the kind of local shop that was really the backbone of post-war retail.
And that eventually evolved into K&K 5 and 10.
So your traditional 5 and dime stores.
Mm-hmm.
But they provided the initial blueprint for sourcing and, operational control.
Then the 1970s brought the first major entrepreneurial pivot, which is key because it shows the founders weren't wedded to any single format.
Not at all. K.R. Perry teamed up with Doug Perry and Macon Brock to start K&K Toys.
And this was a completely different beast.
Oh, totally. A successful mall-based concept that grew to over 130 stores along the East Coast. It was a thriving business in its own right, and it really demonstrated their ability to scale up fast.
But the true genesis, the thing that created the company we know today, that comes later.
A decade and a half later, in 1986. That's when Doug Perry, Macon Brock, and Ray Compton started a new chain called Only $1.
And they launched with just 5 stores.
Just 5, scattered across Georgia, Tennessee, and Virginia. And what's so fascinating is that they did this alongside the continued growth of their K&K toy stores.
So they were basically running 2 completely different large retail concepts at the same time.
Exactly.
And the power of that new concept, the dollar concept, was immediate. The first store, branded with the now famous Dollar Tree name, opened on April 27, 1989 in Sumter, South Carolina.
And they knew they had struck retail gold.
Oh, immediately.
The sources show they recognized it right away. A May 1989 advertisement billed the dollar pricing model not as some niche idea, but as the hottest new shopping concept in America. The chain was already planning 100 stores for the eastern United States.
So this wasn't some cautious experiment.
No, it was an ambitious, self-assured launch. It was all predicated on the idea that the universal appeal of a single dollar price would fuel just, hypergrowth.
So then you get to the pivotal moment, right? The moment they put all their chips on the dollar concept. That came in 1991.
A massive strategic decision. The corporation sold its incredibly successful, thriving K&K Toys division to KB Toys.
Which at the time was owned by Melville Corporation.
Right. And this is just a textbook example of corporate focus.
They sold a proven cash cow.
A proven cash cow, specifically to focus exclusively on the expansion of the dollar stores. It speaks volumes about the perceived long-term potential of that single-price model.
They saw a future where $1 retail wasn't just a fad, but a dominant force in the discount sector.
And what's so fascinating here is the insight that drove this. I mean, they didn't invent the concept from thin air.
No, the sources mentioned they got the idea from a competitor.
From watching a competitor called Everything's a Dollar, they recognized the inherent marketing power of that model.
And this is where operational genius separates the winners from the losers, right?
Absolutely. Because while Dollar Tree took that concept and just ran with it, that same competitor, Everything's a Dollar.
They went bankrupt.
They went bankrupt in the 1990s. It just highlights that the $1 price point is a marketing tool, but the survival of the business that hinges entirely on perfecting the logistics, the sourcing, and the overhead efficiency to make a profit on margins measured in pennies.
And Dollar Tree cracked that code.
She did.
And speaking of long-term vision, this brings us to one of the most insightful details in the entire corporate history.
A name change.
The name change in 1993. Only $1 changes its name to Dollar Tree stores. Why? I mean, why make that change when the brand identity was so crystal clear?
This is corporate foresight at its finest. The documents state the change was made specifically to address what could be a multi-price point strategy in the future.
In 1993. That was 30 years ago.
30 years ago. They were building a business based entirely on a $1 promise, yet they had the legal and strategic clarity to acknowledge that inflation, market saturation, growth constraints, all of that would eventually force them to pivot.
That's incredible. It tells us the founders didn't view the dollar as a permanent economic constraint, but as a temporary, brilliant branding mechanism.
Right. And what that long delay waiting 30 years to act on it tells us is that for 3 decades, that brand identity was their greatest competitive advantage. The $1 price was sacred.
As long as they could squeeze profits out of that number.
They would hold the line. They understood that the moment they broke the dollar, they risked becoming just another discount store. But by building the corporate structure, the name Dollar Tree stores, they were signaling that the brand was bigger than the single dollar. It was ready for the inevitable economic pressures they saw way off in the distant future.
So the rest of the 90s were really dedicated to building the infrastructure to support that vision, while the dollar still reigned supreme.
Right. They grew organically and through aggressive acquisition. In 1996, they acquired Dollar Bill Inc., which was a Chicago-based chain of 136 stores.
And that instantly expanded their Midwest footprint and gave them immediate market share.
As we said, logistics are everything in this game. You have to be hyper-efficient. So in 1997, they established their first massive distribution center and the new store support center, both in Chesapeake, Virginia.
Solidifying their home base?
Yep. And they closed out the decade in 1999 by acquiring the only Gnarl stores based in New York and opened their second distribution center in Olive Branch, Mississippi.
They were just aggressively building that distribution spine, that operational nervous system designed to feed this rapidly expanding retail body with inventory.
Fast and cheap. The stage was set for national dominance. So once the 2000s hit, Dollar Tree just shifted into high gear. They moved beyond regional acquisitions and started focusing on achieving true national coverage, market saturation.
This is really the era where they solidify their position as, an undisputed major player.
And this decade was a constant churn of absorbing smaller competitors. It was a calculated M&A spree.
In 2000, they grabbed Dollar Express, a Philadelphia-based company. Then in 2003, they acquired Greenbacks, Inc., out of Salt Lake City.
And these weren't random purchases, right? They were strategic geographical land grabs.
And maybe most significantly, in 2006, they acquired 138 Deal Aisle stores,
which were previously owned by SuperValu. By absorbing these existing chains, they bought customers, real estate, and distribution capacity all at once. It just accelerated their growth timeline exponentially.
And this rapid expansion let them achieve national reach very, very quickly. By 2004, they celebrated opening their first store in North Dakota.
Which meant they were officially operating in all 48 contiguous states, coast-to-coast presence. Goal achieved.
But that physical scale required an immediate increase in their operational nervous system, the distribution centers.
We can't just list these centers. We have to emphasize their strategic importance.
Exactly. The sources highlight just how crucial this logistics network is for the survival of the $1 model. We see DCs popping up all over the country to handle the volume and cut down on transportation costs.
So you've got Stockton, California in 2000,
Savannah, Georgia, and Briar Creek, Pennsylvania in 2001.
then Marietta, Oklahoma in 2003, Joliet, Illinois, and Richfield, Washington in 2004.
And San Bernardino, California in 2009. It just keeps going.
By the time we get into the 2010s, this nationwide logistics network is supported by a staggering 24 distribution centers.
24. Why so many?
Because for every item that costs $1, the shipping cost, that last mile expense, it has to be minimized down to the absolute fraction of a penny. A dense distribution network ensures every store is serviced efficiently, allowing them to maintain that necessary profit margin. The infrastructure is the $1 price point.
And building that massive, capital-intensive infrastructure is what allowed them to celebrate truly huge milestones.
Like in 2006, they celebrated 20 years of retailing strictly at the $1 price point and opened their 3,000th store.
And then by 2007, they crossed the $4 billion sales threshold.
And the crowning achievement of this whole era, in 2008, Dollar Tree earned a spot in the prestigious Fortune 500.
They had officially gone big league, proving that an extreme discount single-price model could be scaled into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise.
But alongside all that relentless scaling, the company used this period to test some very specific new concepts and channels, and, not all of them succeeded.
Right, and these pilots are crucial because they show the internal pressure to break that dollar constraint was always there.
We see a couple of these short-lived seasonal experiments that kind of hinted at price flexibility.
In 2006, there was occasions which focused on parties and events.
Yeah, these stores leveraged the core Dollar Tree supply chain, but focused on specific, higher value product categories.
And then in 2007, they piloted Totally Halloween. This was a pretty significant experiment because while it was focused on seasonal items, the pricing was all over the place.
Wildly. From 99 cents up to around $169. This was Dollar Tree testing how far they could stretch the definition of discount.
And what kind of inventory the brand could support.
And it closed after that single season. Never reopened. It's a pretty clear indicator they weren't quite ready for multi-price mass market adoption yet.
They also modernized their sales approach, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing the potential for B2B sales.
Yep. In 2009, they redesigned their website with an e-commerce platform that let them sell merchandise in bulk, in larger quantities, to businesses and individuals.
Plus, using the site for advertising specials and managing product recalls.
But the most fascinating and maybe the most strategically educational failure of this era, it has to be the grocery experiment in 2010.
Oh, the Dollar Tree Market.
The Dollar Tree Market pilot in Chesapeake, Virginia, it was just an astonishing strategic divergence. This wasn't just adding a refrigerated case of sodas.
No, this was a single, massive 23,000 square foot location that combined a full supermarket, a high overhead, perishable inventory operation with a traditional Dollar Tree store.
We're talking about an attempt to become a full-service grocer. The sources note it included fresh meat, a full produce section.
And even an in-store bakery that offered custom cakes.
Custom cakes, it's a huge lesson in core competency. The extreme discount model thrives on low overhead, minimal staffing, high inventory turnover, and non-perishable goods.
And fresh produce, meat, bakeries that require specialized supply chains, refrigeration, stringent quality control, constant restocking, and significant labor costs.
Here's where it gets really interesting. They tried to be a full supermarket back in 2010, selling custom cakes and fresh meat. But the cost and complexity of maintaining fresh, perishable inventory was just. It was too far from their proven model.
It was a strategic bridge too far.
Absolutely. The sources confirm the store closed just a few years later. The format was never expanded. In fact, the sole location was subsequently purchased by Aldi.
Another discounter, but one specializing solely in grocery.
Exactly. It just highlights the difficulty of trying to combine two fundamentally different retail operational models under one roof. They proved they were brilliant at logistics for inexpensive standardized goods, but they lacked the operational muscle for high-risk, high-labor perishables.
So the 2010s, this brought two massive strategic moves that really defined Dollar Tree's ambition, going international and battling for dominance in the U.S. discount landscape.
And these moves forced the company to become comfortable with price points that were no longer strictly $1.
The international foray came first, and that was the first real crack in the $1 foundation.
It was. In 2010, Dollar Tree acquired 86 Canadian dollar giant stores for $52 million. That was their first retail locations outside the U.S.
And Dollar Giant was an established Canadian operation, right? incorporated in 2001 by Joseph Calvano, based in Vancouver.
Yeah, at the time of the acquisition, they had stores across Western Canada and into Ontario.
And all of those stores were eventually rebranded as Dollar Tree.
They were. And as of 2020, the Canadian division operates 227 stores, still concentrated in Western Canada and Ontario. But crucially, the price point reflects the separated market realities.
Not a dollar.
No. Items are typically sold for C$1.50 or otherwise less than C$2. This is the first official, permanent, strategic break from the single dollar price. It indicates that Dollar Tree was capable of operating its core brand successfully at a higher price point, provided, economic conditions like exchange rates and local costs dictated it.
So that Canadian experience really set the stage, but the truly dramatic event that redefined the corporate identity was the massive corporate battle, the Family Dollar Wars, in 2014.
This was a high-stakes game of regulatory chicken, and it was all driven by activist investors.
Absolutely. The entire process was triggered because activist investor Carl Icahn demanded that Family Dollar be put up for sale.
And Dollar Tree saw a chance for immediate, massive scale and diversification. So on July 28, 2014, Dollar Tree announced an approved deal to purchase Family Dollar for $9.2 billion, plus the acquisition of $1 billion in existing debt.
Which was huge news. But the celebration was cut short.
Very short. A fierce competitor immediately entered the ring, Dollar General.
The clear market leader.
Right. They lodged a competing higher bid of $9.7 billion on August 18, 2014. That's nearly $500 million more than Dollar Tree's offer.
And in a normal M&A scenario, the higher bid wins.
But this is the crucial twist in the story that our listener needs to understand. Despite the higher price, Family Dollar rejected the Dollar General bid on August 20, 2014.
And the reason wasn't financial.
No, it was purely strategic and regulatory. The Family Dollar board stated they rejected the offer due to overwhelming concerns over antitrust issues that the Dollar General deal would face with U.S. regulators.
Okay, let's break down that regulatory logic, because it's vital to understanding this market.
So, Dollar General and Family Dollar were considered direct competitors. They often serve the exact same low-income customer base in the exact same neighborhoods, sometimes right across the street from each other.
So if Dollar General had acquired Family Dollar, the combined company would have created a near monopoly in a lot of small, rural, or underserved markets.
Which reduces competition and raises prices for consumers. Regulators would have demanded massive store divestitures, hundreds, maybe thousands, to approve the deal. It would have been too messy, too costly, and too risky for Family Dollar's board.
Whereas Dollar Tree, despite having thousands of stores, was seen by regulators at the time as functionally different because of its strict single price point.
Exactly. The assumption was that the core Dollar Tree shopper was distinct from the core Family Dollar or Dollar General shopper, who are already used to a multi-price model.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this highlights how corporate strategy in the discount space is driven not just by raw acquisition price,
but critically by market saturation and regulatory risk. Dollar General's higher bid failed because Family Dollar feared the antitrust hurdles. Dollar Tree, ironically because of its rigid $1 branding, was seen as the safer bet to pass regulatory review, even though they were the lower bidder.
So Dollar Tree eventually completed the takeover, though the final value adjusted to $8.5 billion, plus debt.
But even their safer deal required significant concessions. To appease those regulators, even the Dollar Tree deal required a massive store divestiture.
In 2015, they had to sell 330 stores to Sycamore Partners as part of the approval process.
So they won the battle for Family Dollar, but it came at a high cost, massive complexity, and most importantly, it introduced a non-dollar banner that fundamentally challenged Dollar Tree's entire identity. The acquisition of Family Dollar brought Dollar Tree massive scale, but it also forced them to reckon with the reality of running a large and, frankly, struggling multi-price banner.
Right. And this led to a period of intense restructuring and, critically, the internal decision to finally break that $1 constraint on the core Dollar Tree brand.
The early focus was just fixing the new asset. In March 2019, as part of a major reposition plan, Dollar Tree announced 2 major moves for Family Dollar.
The closure of up to 390 underperforming stores, a massive write-down, and the renovation of 1,000 others. They were just desperate to salvage that $8.5 billion investment.
And at the same time, they began the carefully managed pivot that would redefine the core Dollar Tree brand itself. This was the introduction of the multi-price format, what they called 2.0 internally.
And that 2.0 was branded as Dollar Tree Plus. It launched as a 100-store pilot in May 2019. Now, we need to be clear about the distinction here.
Right. The concept was not to raise the price on existing dollar items, but to layer in new, higher value goods.
Like better decor, upgraded toys, premium housewares, things priced at $3 and $5.
And the key strategic maneuver of 2.0 was all about the physical presentation. These items were displayed in dedicated front-of-store bays, separate from the core $1 assortment.
It was a strategy of testing consumer tolerance. They were saying, we still have the dollar, but hey, if you walk a few feet, we have something better for $3 or $5.
And the success of this pilot was undeniable. Its expansion continued aggressively from 2023 onward.
They were also tackling that market saturation issue in smaller communities by blending the banners.
Yeah, by the end of 2020, Dollar Tree quietly introduced a combined family Dollar Tree store concept. They were operating nearly 50 of them,
And these were primarily targeting small towns with populations of just a few thousand people.
where it just wasn't economical to operate two separate, full-scale discount stores.
So all of these moves were incremental, designed to test the consumer's tolerance for higher prices. But the economic climate had other plans.
The full-scale mandatory price shock came in 2021, driven by inflation and investor impatience.
The writing was on the wall by September 28, 2021. CEO Michael Witsinski announced publicly that increased shipping costs and rising labor wages were squeezing profit margins so tightly that the $1 price point was just unsustainable.
He basically warned that some prices would have to rise above $1, maybe up to $1.50.
And then came the official massive pivot that truly ended the Dollar Tree era as we knew it.
November 23, 2021. The company announced plans to raise the typical anchor price point across the board from $1 to $1.25.
This wasn't a test. This was a permanent, non-negotiable response to inflation and direct pressure from investors.
Investors who were arguing the company was deliberately leaving hundreds of millions in revenue on the table by adhering so strictly to the dollar.
And the change was rapid. They introduced the $1.25 price point in more than 2,000 stores by December 2021.
And the transition across most of its 8,000 stores was completed by the first quarter of 2022. It was a lightning-fast, fundamental identity change.
One that the founders had foreshadowed 30 years earlier, but which was finally implemented under extreme external duress.
And the evolution didn't stop there. It accelerated rapidly into the mid-2020s with what they internally call the 3.0 strategy.
Which is currently redefining the entire customer experience. This new format was established in 2024 and is aggressively expanding across 2024 and 2025.
And this is where the more choices strategy, the internal name for 3.0, is fundamentally different from 2.0.
How so?
The 3.0 format integrates a wide array of items priced over $1.75 and, crucially, up to $7 directly onto the regular shelves. They're mixed right in with the $1.25 items.
So this is a total bland reset.
Completely. The previous Dollar Tree Plus branding, where the higher prices were kind of sequestered in their own bays, that's being wound down.
The higher price points are no longer a plus feature. They're just normal.
They're normalized and integrated into the standard store flow. It's an explicit signal. Dollar Tree is no longer defined by a single price or even a low price cap, but by the discount model applied across a wider range of items all the way up to $7.
Yet this strategic shift didn't come without immense pain and operational disruption. The last few years have been strategically tumultuous.
Especially involving the lingering complexities of that Family Dollar acquisition.
In March 2024, they reported a staggering loss of $1.71 billion for the latest quarter and announced the closure of nearly 1,000 stores.
That huge financial hit is a clear indication that the integration of Family Dollar and the ongoing price shift had been challenging and deeply, deeply expensive.
But amid the closures, they made a brilliant, opportunistic move in May 2024.
Capitalizing on a competitor's failure, Dollar Tree acquired the lease of 170 99-cents-only stores locations, along with all the associated intellectual property.
Which instantly gives them prime real estate for their new, higher-value, multi-price formats.
Real estate that was already known to attract extreme discount shoppers.
There was also a massive real-world operational challenge that just hit their nervous system.
The distribution center in Marietta, Oklahoma, a facility we mentioned earlier, was completely destroyed by a tornado in April 2024.
Which led to the DC's closure and layoffs in May, followed by the heartbreaking sight of the dilapidated warehouse catching fire in August.
It just shows the vulnerability of their central logistics network. When a single DC goes down, it impacts the ability to stock hundreds of stores instantly.
And finally, we see the decisive, ultimate action taken regarding that legacy acquisition.
Yep. In March 2025, the company announced the sale of the troubled Family Dollar chain for $1 billion to Brigade Capital and Macellum Capital. The sale was completed in July.
And this move clearly separates the Dollar Tree core brand, now focused on the More Choices $7 format, from the lower-performing, highly complicated multi-price Family Dollar operation.
It allows the core brand to focus purely on its new identity.
And despite all this churn, leadership remains consistent, focused on executing the new strategy. In December 2024, Michael C. Creedon Jr., who joined as COO in 2022, was appointed permanent CEO.
At that time, before the Family Dollar sale was completed, he was responsible for leading over 200,000 associates and 16,000 plus stores across both banners. His mandate is crystal clear: successfully transition Dollar Tree from a single-price novelty to a dominant, flexible discount giant.
Okay, so Dollar Tree is classified as an extreme discount store, and understanding their operational philosophy, how they sourced, stocked, and controlled costs for 30 years, is key to grasping why these recent price shifts were not just desired, but, necessary.
So let's go back to the core operational mystery. How did a store manage to stay profitable while keeping prices strictly at $1 for so long?
Right. What does this all mean? How does a store manage to stay profitable while keeping prices so low, or historically, strictly at $1?
Well, the company claims its strategy is based on extreme operational efficiency and phenomenal buying power. They state that their buyers work extremely hard to find the best bargains out there.
And the corporation has great control over the tremendous buying power at the dollar price point.
Right. They focus on securing enormous volume contracts for simple, non-perishable goods sourced globally at the lowest possible cost. Their entire financial model is built on shaving fractions of a penny off procurement and distribution.
Their target audience is also crucial to their strategy. While their prices are primarily designed to attract financially disadvantaged customers,
People who are extremely price sensitive.
the sources note they have also become incredibly popular within immigrant communities. They serve a demographic highly attuned to immediate, visible cost savings, for whom that $1 price was a clear, unambiguous value proposition.
However, the strategy of aggressive expansion and hyper-low prices, particularly the proliferation of dollar stores in lower-income areas, has led to significant controversy regarding their broader social impact.
Which brings us directly to the food desert controversy. Dollar Tree and dollar stores in general are frequently alleged by studies and organizations to proliferate food deserts.
Those are areas with limited access to healthy and affordable food options, particularly fresh produce and protein.
The concern is really twofold. First, because dollar stores offer some low-cost staples, like processed goods and canned items, they're often seen as outcompeting and causing the closure of local, small-scale grocery stores.
Stores that might have offered fresh produce and meat. The dollar stores move in, and the true grocer often moves out, leaving the community with reduced access to high-quality fresh food.
So they end up being one of the few options available for buying food in some communities, but often only for processed or non-perishable goods.
And Dollar Tree naturally disputes this claim. The company's defense is that it creates food options in areas that would otherwise be deserts.
They argue that they are filling a void where no other major retailers, especially expensive full-service grocers, are willing to operate due to low profit potential. They see themselves as a necessary safety net.
But we need to critically examine that defense against their own operational constraints. I mean, if Dollar Tree is genuinely trying to fill a void for financially disadvantaged customers, why did they pull basic food items like eggs in 2023 when prices rose?
Right. The sources note that in 2023, Dollar Tree reportedly stopped selling eggs when the price increased drastically.
That action demonstrates that even basic food items are vulnerable to being pulled from the shelves if the profit margin is squeezed too tightly by inflation. It kind of contradicts their stated mission to help customers access necessities.
That decision really highlights the fundamental tension between the extreme discount business model and social responsibility. The business model demands profit efficiency above all else.
And regulators are responding to these controversies. In line with the allegations that these stores restrict community food choices, a number of states and municipalities have passed restrictions on where new dollar stores can be opened.
So the regulatory pushback shows this is no longer just a theoretical debate. It's translating into actual policy designed to protect local grocery infrastructure.
And beyond the social impact, operating at extreme discount comes with inherent internal risks, particularly around product sourcing and safety.
When margins are that razor thin, quality control across the massive assortment of goods they sell becomes a constant challenge.
And discounted goods sourced from complex global supply chains sometimes result in critical product safety concerns and, subsequent recalls.
The sources list several specific examples of recalls that illustrate this risk. We saw recalls involving salsa jars with broken glass inside them back in 2013.
Which is a severe contamination issue that speaks to potential breakdowns in food processing safety controls.
There were also risks tied directly to product function. For example, hot melt mini glue guns that were recalled in 2008 because they could short circuit and cause burns.
And even earlier, in 2004, candle sets were recalled because they could produce an excessive, unpredictable flame. These anecdotes highlight the massive liability assumed when you're purchasing millions of units of cheaply manufactured goods globally.
The cost of sourcing is low, but the potential cost of a recall is immense.
It's a balancing act that is just relentless. Maintaining low prices while ensuring safety and battling economic pressures, it's a tension that eventually led them to abandon the very name that defined them.
We have tracked Dollar Tree's journey from a small Norfolk variety store to a $25 billion multinational corporation, constantly under pressure to reinvent itself.
And the key takeaway, tracing that path from 1993 to 2025, is the deliberate yet delayed death of a core corporate identity.
Indeed, we saw the deliberate shift away from the $1 price point, which began with the international acquisition of Canadian stores priced at $1.50.
And escalated through the contentious acquisition and multi-year struggle with Family Dollar, which ultimately resulted in its necessary sale for $1 billion in 2025.
But the biggest lesson lies in the pivot of the core Dollar Tree banner. The company went from the Dollar Tree Plus 2.0 format, which tested consumer acceptance by layering in those sequestered $3 and $5 items,
to the current aggressive 3.0 More Choices format. This new model integrates items priced up to $7 directly onto the shelves.
and economic realities, namely inflation, shipping, and labor costs, finally overcame operational efficiency. They forced the only $1 concept to evolve, exactly as the founders foresaw with that strategic name change way back in 1993.
It's a fascinating case study in how a corporate identity, no matter how powerful, must eventually bend to insurmountable market forces and aggressive growth aspirations. For the learner, this is proof that even the most ingrained retail promise is never immune to profit constraints.
Which raises an important question. Given the company's tumultuous strategic shifts, failed pilots like that massive grocery store, rapid acquisitions followed by significant divestitures, and the total shift to the integrated $7 price point, what remains of the core identity established by only $1? The future of the extreme discount category may hinge entirely on whether consumers who flock to Dollar Tree for guaranteed $1 prices are willing to follow the retailer all the way up the price ladder, accepting $7 as part of the deal, or if they will simply seek out the next single price point disruptor.